Good morning, students. Very happy to meet you once again. Through this video session, we are going to continue unit number 6, reproduction in plants. In the previous two video, in this unit, reproduction in plants, chapter asexual and sexual reproduction in plants, asexual reproduction and different methods which involved in asexual reproduction was discussed. Now we are continuing with sexual reproduction in plants. We know that reproduction in plants in two types, asexual and sexual reproduction. In this video, we are continuing with sexual reproduction in plants. Sexual reproduction in plants. As you are aware, in the previous classes, reproduction in the lower plants such as algae and bryophytes, how the asexual method of reproduction takes place. Sexual method is different from the asexual method of reproduction. Sexual reproduction in plants, which involves the production of gametes followed by fusion of gametes. There are two types of gametes produced in sexual reproduction in plants, namely male gametes and female gametes. The process by which the production of gametes is called gametogenesis. After the gametes are produced, they are fused. After the fusion, zygote is formed. So the process of fusion of gametes is called fertilization. Sexual reproduction in algae and bryophytes, which producing gametes. The gametes may be motile or non-motile, depends upon the species. In 11th standard itself we studied. The gametic fusion of algae and bryophytes are three types: isogamy, anisogamy and oogamy. In algae, external fertilization takes place, but remember children, in higher plants, the reproduction which occurs internally. So internal reproduction that occurs in flowering plants. Next, what is the organ for the sexual reproduction? Flower is said to be the reproductive part in which the sex organs are present. Flower is viewed in multi-dimensional perspectives from time of immemorial. In Tamil literature, the 5 lands are denoted by different flowers. In Tamil literature, the 5 lands are denoted by different flowers. Even flags of some countries are embedded with flowers. A flower, in general, it possesses 4 words, namely calyx, corolla, androecium and gynoecium. Androecium and gynoecium are the essential organs which take part in sexual reproduction in plants. The process or changes involved in sexual reproduction of higher plants, which includes 3 stages, namely pre-fertilization changes, fertilization and post-fertilization changes. Children, let us discuss these events in detail one by one. First, pre-fertilization structures and events. The hormonal and structural changes in the plant which lead to the differentiation and the development of floral primordium. The structures and events involved in pre-fertilization are as follows. First, male reproductive part, androecium. Androecium is made up of stamens. Each stamen possesses an anther and a filament, which you can see in this picture. Stamen is there, stamen in which anther and filament you can observe. Androecium is made up of stamens, each stamen which possesses an anther and filament. Anther bears pollen grains, which represents the male gametophyte. The lesson, chapter 1, Asexual and Sexual Reproduction in Plants. Now we are going to discuss structure and development of anther in detail. So now you can see the anther and the filament on the top of this picture, top of this video. In this picture you can see stamens in hibiscus plant. Anther and filament you can see very clearly. Anther and filament are the two important parts of the stamen. Let's continue development of anther. A very young anther which develops as homogeneous mass of cells which are surrounded by an epidermis. Look at this picture, children. The first diagram left side, anther primordium you can see. During the development of anther, anther is assumed as four-lobed structure. In each lobe, a row or a few rows of hypodermal cells become enlarged with the conspicuous nuclei. This functions as an archisporium. Archisporium contains archisporial cell, which you can see orange in color in this picture. The archisporial cells divide by periclinal division to form primary parietal cells, which you can see in the third picture, and primary sporogenous cells. Primary parietal cells which moves towards the epidermis, and primary sporogenous cells towards the inner side of the anther. Next, the primary parietal cells which undergo series of periclinal and anticlinal divisions and form 2 to 5 layers of anther wall. The anther wall which is composed of from the periphery to center as follows: endothecium, which you can see, endothecium, middle layer, and tapetum. So outer endodermis, outer epidermis, endothecium, middle layer, tapetum. The next process which we called microsporogenesis. Microsporogenesis, the stages which involved in the formation of haploid microspores from diploid microspore mother cell through meiosis is called microsporogenesis. The primary sporogenous cells directly or may undergo few mitosis division to form sporogenous tissue. The last generation of sporogenous tissue is function as microspore mother cell. The generation of sporogenous tissue which will be developed later as microspore mother cell. Each microspore mother cell divides meiotically to form a tetrad of 4 microspores which are haploid. These haploid microspores are called as microspore tetrad. These microspore tetrad may be arranged as tetrahedral, decussate, linear or T-shaped, sometimes isobilateral manner. Microspores soon they get separated from one another and remains free. Once they get separated from one another, they remains free in the anther logule and develop into pollen grains. So microspores only develop into pollen grains. The stages in the development of Microsporangia, now you are seeing in this picture. The stages in the development of Microsporangia, now you are seeing in this picture. In some plants, microspores in a Microsporangium remain held together. They called as pollinium. Example, Calotropis. Students, now you are seeing Calotropis. The pollinium of the Calotropis is containing microspores inside. Compound pollen grains are found in Drosera and Drymus. Let us recall the lesson, children. In this video, we discuss sexual reproduction in plants. The fusion of male and female gamete is called as sexual reproduction. Production of gametes is known as gametogenesis. In lower organisms, the gametes may be motile or non-motile in nature. Higher organisms in which the fertilization is internal, whereas in the lower organism, fertilization takes place externally. The sex organ which helps in the sexual reproduction in the plant is called as flower which contain the male reproductive part called as androecium, and the female reproductive part is called gynoecium. The process involved in sexual reproduction includes 3 stages: pre-fertilization, fertilization, and post-fertilization changes. Pre-fertilization, in which the structure and events, we discuss what is meant by male reproductive part called androecium. It's called as collection of stamens or made up of stamens. Stamens which contain anther and filament. Anther which bears pollen grains. Development of anther which takes place from homogeneous mass of cells from the floral primordium. Anthers look like a 4-lobed in structure. The process by which the production of a microspore in anther is called microsporogenesis. Primary sporogenous cells undergo mitotic division to form sporogenous tissue. The last cell of the sporogenous tissue which act as a sporogenous cell or microspore mother cell. The microspore mother cell which divide meiotically and form 4 haploid microspores. Microspores, they develop in the anther logule into pollen grains. In some plants, pollen grains are we called microspores in Microsporangium or remain held together called pollinium. In some plants, the microspores in the Microsporangium are held together is called pollinium. Example, Calotropis. Dear children, you might understand the pre-fertilization events in which development of anther in detail through this video. In the next class, we are going to discuss TS of mature anther. Once again, I would like to say thanks for watching the video.